Good day, ladies, NBs, and etceteras. I'm Cassidy, and you are welcome to the 10th episode of Facts and Features. My target audience with these when I started making them was what I called the above casual players, the people who aren't quite speedrunning the game or doing anything competitive like that, but still have a lot of time in it and are active in at least some of the Hitman community spaces. In other words, I thought my audience would be like me. Operating under the assumption that it'd be those people who'd watch my videos, I've neglected to share a lot of the knowledge that feels very obvious to me, someone with 2,000 hours in the world of assassination, and therefore must be common knowledge among my audience, which also contains a much wider array of experience with Hitman than I initially thought. Without any further monologuing, welcome to Facts and Features number 10, in which I finally share a bunch of obscure facts I thought everyone already knew. Cameras in the icon are blind. They will record 47, but they can't spot him, so the game's effectively set back to Hitman 2016 rules, where your silent assassin rank is fine as long as you remember to destroy the recording box. It's very easy to exploit propane flasks for free accident kills. Most of you have likely used them to get silent assassin by shooting them, but if you unlock the big one, a firework locked behind Mastery level 10 in Sapienza, you can just throw it at a leaking propane flask in front of everyone, and nobody cares when it explodes.
I could have you a record.
Target down.
Leaking propane can be blown up by any source of sparks, including tasers, bullet impacts against metal, and the remote EMP charge. Speaking of the EMP, I should clarify its uses because it's a really odd but occasionally useful little gadget. The EMP can open doors locked by keycard or RFID, silently kill camera recordings, or destroy a single camera if you're really intent on wasting it. Also, there's a few scripted effects, like killing the virus in Sapienza from the Biolab laptop, or the satellite control unit in Ambrose. It's missing some other functions you might expect it to have, like killing Kai in Hokkaido, sabotaging Robert Knox's satellite dish in Miami, or opening doors locked by dongles or passcodes. Additionally, it can serve as a taser that's both unsuspicious and remotely triggered, making it equally suitable for that purpose as the remote micro taser. Finally, for some reason the EMP just doesn't work on keycard doors in Mumbai, Dadbai, Berlin, or Mendoza, because doors in those cities are actually powered by little fairies. This disappointing fact continues the EMP's signature theme of sounding like a versatile tool that excels at the kind of improvisation I love to do in these games, instead being too inconsistent to be of any real use. Except as a taser, it's actually pretty okay at that. If you're trespassing and nearly get spotted, an NPC who saw you will investigate your location. This is meant to penalize players for near-miss incidents in stealth, but it can also be exploited to attract NPCs when you can't use a distraction item. Take this NPC guarding the vaccine in Patient Zero. If I just stand here until the whoosh spotting noise reaches a high enough pitch, he's lured to wherever 47 was when the yellow spotting indicator disappeared, bringing him to a place where I can quietly dispose of him. Now, the peekaboo is very useful when you bend it to your own ends, but sometimes you accidentally trigger it when you don't want to, and now a guard's coming to destroy your silent assassin rating. Or maybe it wasn't a peekaboo, and someone heard you knock out a guard a little louder than was strictly necessary. Whatever the reason, if you've accidentally lured someone to a place where you don't want them, just drop an item in front of them and they'll leave you alone.
Excuse me, sir? I think you dropped something.
It's a bit more complicated to do when trespassing, but definitely far from impossible.
Huh? Sir, you...
Here's two tricks that can help you move around Sapienza. First, you can quickly move from this ledge to the cave floor below if you just aim any weapon while pressing the drop button. And second, this pipe on the church that you're not supposed to climb up can be reached if you just walk up this rake. NPCs can have different comments on your suit depending on which one you're wearing.
Man in a quality suit. I've been good all year, so please fulfill my wish and move along. This place is off limits. Yeah, and don't let me see you here again. Hey, wait!
Can I get a picture with you, Mr. Ninja?
The Requiem suit in particular garners a lot of attention, likely because back in the day it was a platform-exclusive pre-order bonus for Hitman 2016 on the PlayStation 4. Wow, 8th gen was a fucking wild time.
Hey, Mr. White. Sorry, this area has increased security at the moment. You'll need to find another way in. Love the gloves, though.
I will warn you though, some of this special dialogue is incredibly offensive.
Hey, long time no see.
If you'd like to quickly but silently kill Cassidy in Whittleton Creek, you can just place a remote micro-taser in their house's mailbox and detonate it.
What the hell?
Normal tasers can't do this because Hitman 2 was pretty careful with items in its base game remaining balanced, but Hitman 3 had no such concerns, so the newer micro taser is a free kill on anyone who will check the mailbox. That's for former Secret Service agent and Providence Herald Nolan Cassidy, by the way. I cannot verify this strategy's effectiveness for killing YouTuber and cat owner Cassidy Cope. As I've mentioned previously, some maps have suits lying around, which are considered functionally identical to any other suit within Contracts mode. Despite this, if you're compromised in one suit and swap into another, everyone still forgets you, even if it's nearly identical.
The sick bastard is taking
Please enjoy your stay.
I know Diana told us that people see uniforms, not faces, but these aren't even uniforms.
We lost him.
Almost every disguise on Hokkaido has an icon indicating the type and rank of the person wearing it. For example, basic doctors only have a plus, surgeons don a special hashtag, and the chief surgeon has a special hashtag plus, which is the next subscription service deducting $10 from your bank account every month. Guards use chevrons to indicate their rank instead of the medical staff's intersecting lines, and other staff have up to 3 circles on their backs. But these insignias aren't just good branding. If you look at any locked door in Hokkaido, you can see the lowest ranks that are permitted access beyond it, like the triple chevron door to Kai's mainframe indicating that only the director may access it. The only non-staff given clothes with symbols are the special patients who've rented rooms at Gamma. These come with up to 3 horizontal lines or this symbol, which someone will probably tell me is of some significance in the comments. These robes can only be used to access the apartment with a matching insignia, which is highlighted with a big bright sign instead of the more modest ones found on other doors. Any unit not rented by Yuki Yamazaki is also accessible to doctors, but not their peers from the morgue or operating theater. Doors can be opened by doing a lot of damage to them very fast, whether it comes from a very powerful rifle, a rapid-fire submachine gun, or good old-fashioned explosives. Slow weapons can be made to fire faster by pause buffering, which involves pausing in between shots to run down the timer until you can next shoot while the game is paused. This has its uses in combat, but it's most useful for quickly and quietly opening doors with pistols, which is known as a mud shot. All you need to do is spam the pause button and the shoot button at the same time while aiming at the door's handle. You need to get a bit of a feel for it, but if you do, you'll never need a lockpick again. Fun fact, the mud shot is named after its discoverer, Hitman community member Muddy. She can actually be found in my Discord server, the Softy the Cat official fan club, where I'm hosting a game based on Family Feud this Saturday evening. However, I need people to survey and give me answers for questions I'll be asking, so if you're enjoying this video, it would be great if you could fill the form in the description while leaving a like and subscribing, and maybe even join my Discord server if you want to see the game yourself. If you can't do mud shots for whatever reason, it's worth knowing that there are a few weapons allowed to open doors that can replace your pistol. The ICA-19 FA Stealth is exactly like a normal silenced ICA-19, down to the 2-shot body shots and a high accuracy for the first shot, but fully automatic. However, it's very difficult to use in full-blown combat. If you want something better suited for a fight, the DAC X2 Covert might best satisfy your needs. It is a much larger magazine for combat, is still silent for stealth, and can of course open doors. it's an SMG, so it needs special ammo and doesn't do nearly as much damage. There's a third option that mixes a large magazine like the Dax with the high damage of the ICM-18, at the cost of not being silenced. But the Concept 5's audio is still broken, so I cannot recommend it.
I got a man down!
The breaching charge is a very powerful explosive with a very small range, which makes it mostly useful for opening doors or blocked pathways, as the name would suggest. However, these traits also make it useful for playing with physics. If you want some real nonsense straight out of a retro Hitman game, if you use the charge to launch some very light objects, like coins, they properly transfer their momentum into any other physics objects they impact. Physics really make every game better, don't they? If you place an object by holding both bumpers on controller or caps lock on keyboard, NPCs act like they didn't see you do it. This applies to guns,
You gotta be kidding.
explosives,
Don't worry about it. I'm a professional, okay?
and even distraction objects. I've talked about the latter before, but forgot to mention that some items, like phones, ducks, and the gold bar, act exactly like coins, so you can also use it to guarantee that an NPC you particularly dislike will pick up an explosive phone. As discussed in Facts and Features number 9, NPCs don't like taking fall damage. But there are points where they can fall to death. The devs have placed numerous death planes that will immediately kill anyone who crosses them. To be clear, the word plane in this context refers to a flat surface. If you are seeing jet planes crushing anyone who wrongs them in their engines, you should take your medication, stop worrying about it, and get some rest. Anyway, yes, death planes. These entirely natural and unpreventable phenomena are usually found out of bounds, like the slope of the mountain that Gamma was built on in Hokkaido. While a concussive duck could save Miss Carlisle when she jumps from her office, it can't save Dr. Ito from a similar fate, because he's offered himself to the planes. There's one very notable death plane that's within the boundaries of a level. It's also known to be the buggiest. If an NPC manages to fall down the elevator shaft in Mumbai from high enough, they'll die on the way down. However, if 47 goes down the elevator shaft, sometimes the plane will notice him and kill him. The only fix for this is to regularly make offerings to the planes so they understand it's in their best interests to let 47 live. Or alternatively, you can just avoid going down the shaft too fast when playing Master Mode or Freelancer. 47 is affected by other death planes as well, but since they're mostly out of bounds, it's very difficult for that to be a problem. Some planes around the game are more merciful and simply hide bodies, like these great boxes in Mendoza. Or this skylight in Chongqing, which is pointed out to me by fan club member Charlie Cloud. If you're bringing an item to distract NPCs, the explosive and flash phones are the best ones to do it with. When they're ringing, they have a much further range than either throwing an object or using a remote audio device. And you can still throw them if you want a smaller noise radius.
Wow.
And as I've said earlier, NPCs also try to pick up phones, just like coins. So you can choose whether you want an NPC to do the pickup, look around, or answering phone animations once they reach where you lured them.
You know, in my novel, there is a character very similar to you, Would you mind if I took notes? Mental notes, of course. You are quite fascinating.
Some NPCs around the game get into small ambient conversations that last forever. These two in Hokkaido, for example, take turns saying a random thing and giving a random response. Forever.
You know, I'm trying to keep calm. I don't like the thin air up here. I get anxiety attacks, you see. I love the place. Believe me, I come here often, but I won't bore you with those details. I miss home. You know, it gets lonely being in a strange country for a long time, and I can't really connect with the people here the same way I can with the people back home. They're so friendly. It's almost too friendly, if you know what I mean. I'm not used to it.
Well, that is interesting.
What?
If you pick an exit that uses a vehicle, 47 will just run over anyone in his way. This does not affect Silent Assassin. And while 47 makes his exit, I think I will too. Thank you all very much for watching. Remember to do the survey in the description, and have a nice day.
Hey.